I found out at 2 a.m. New Year's Day that my wife was having an affair. She kept going for another 8 months. I'm 28, I had my first GF when I was 21, she was the first person I slept with too. I loved her, we got engaged and married and moved in together over a 6.5-year relationship. I started getting suspicious of her and one of her workmates who was extremely clingy towards her. There were many red flags, which I ignored as this woman was the love of my life and my wife, why would she do anything so bad? But the suspicions kept building as more and more red flags appeared. I confronted her about these things, like him and her messaging constantly. I saw many messages from him to her with rows of heart emojis, how she would always fab our going places with him over me, even when I specifically asked if me and her, could go together. She took him to a bird park that I love to go to, she had him over for one night when I was away and the bed sheets were in the washing machine when I got home. I had enough on New Year's when she was purposefully being distant from me, like I was a bad guy or I had done something wrong. I took her phone and found her messages with him, that night confessing to each other how much they loved each other. Obviously I felt destroyed, but fool me attempted to keep our relationship going. I found they had been sexting each other a few weeks afterwards Oswell and after a massive argument she promised to change. Fool me. They continued their thing until August where I found them out again. Before then there had been instances where she was purposefully distant to me, and lo abd behold it was because she was doing things with him. Suspicion crept up again as she went to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, but only had one gym wear in the wash by the end of it and she never was tired or did her fitness change. I demanded a divorce when I found out that she had named a star after him for his birthday, which was just a week or so before mine. As I had enough. She lied to friends and family about what had happened, stating that we were just getting distant and wanted different things. I retaliate with throwing everything on a FB post, including her confessions for the other guy, the naming the star purchase, photos of them out on trips which I had no clue of. I will admit not my best moment, probably not fair either. After the divorce, I said I never wanted to hear or speak to her again. This was around 2 years ago, from time of posting, and in that time she has messaged me twice, both times I have completely ignored. But I keep the evidence of what she did safe just in case she tries anything. Honestly, for my first real relationship it was a roller coaster. 4 months later, 4 days before Christmas I lost my job and my house and moved back into my mother's. Few years later and am back on my feet, with the new job, looking for a new house and got back into my karate, which I'm in a kata squad now and back in touch with lots of friends. Stuff her, am so much happier now.
Why did she not just end the relationship if Ahe was gonna do all that shit?
She wanted the attention of 2 men fighting over her and she said to me at one point that she was wanting me to be jealous of her. I didn't understand it at the time, but I think she was trying to play both sides. Story 2. I came back from my deployment only to find my wife with another man on my bed. You know, being in love is probably one of the most beautiful things in life, but it's also one of the most dangerous things. Life is all about risk, I know that. I joined the Marines as a private. Now I'm a corporal. Busted my ass, but I'm here. I want to stay a Marine for the rest of my life. Or at least I wanted to. I'm in a tough spot. I married my wife 3 years ago. When I married her I was so in love. Everything she did made me smile. How she looked at me, how she smiles, laugh, plays with her hair, I loved it all. Now I don't know if I love this woman at all. I was deployed for 8 months. Now while I was at base, my brothers at base would always tell me woman only marry soldier for benefits. You know, benefit pays, healthcare, education, vacations, all that. They say wives gets lonely when we get deployed and bring home a friend while I'm here. I didn't listen to any of this, right? Not all women are like that, right? Well, I don't know anymore. It's not my place to say every woman is like this now. When I flew home, I had to take a 12-hour flight. I wanted to see my family so bad. A wife and a beautiful princess. Being away from my baby is like getting punched in the stomach a billion times until I see her again. Although, I chatted with her all the time. I go inside thinking they were there. I saw no one home. I sat down waiting for them. Called wife and she didn't pick up. No text, nothing. I went to the kitchen and I started hearing some thumps. It's coming from the basement. When I opened the door, I heard a guy moaning. I head down quietly. It benefited me that we have very soft furry-like carpet. And wow. I caught my wife blowing my someone I graduated high school with. We weren't best friends or anything, but we did know each other. I couldn't believe this. Now I don't play this crap. I jumped on the bed and beat this man. Not brutally like other guys do. But enough to give him a black eye and a busted lip. He knew she's my wife. He knew I was away. Wife was screaming not to hit him. That she's sorry. Since that moment, my home was being at base. This home is nothing but ruined memories. My brothers were right about marriage, about my wife. Never again will I trust my wife, or if I divorce, I want to stay a Marine, which means it'll be a waste of time to marry again. Yes, we are still married. This was not too long ago. I regret staying with her every day. I look at her now. When she smiles at me I just look away, when she hugs me I just look at something else, putting one arm around her. When she tries to kiss me, I turn my head. Our favorite thing was to try out something we've never ate before. We would go to other states just to eat at the highest rated restaurants. We haven't done that since before the day I left to Asia. I'm just not in love anymore. When I talk about divorce she jumps on me saying she's so sorry, showing fake tears. That she will never do that again. That she loves me. She confessed to sleeping with him 3 times. I'm all over the place I know, so while I was away, the entire time, she only slept with him 3 times? Yeah, okay. I'll be honest, I probably should be nominated for being the most distancing husband. She cries to me saying she misses me, that what she did was a mistake. That she'll do anything for us to be the same as before. We don't argue, but we are more than distant than enemies. She constantly suggests for us to go see a counselor. All they're going to do is tell us to make up. Anything that involves touching her, or making eye contact more than 1 second, I'm not doing it. That's why I'm not going. I wasn't worried about my daughter. She looks so much like me. She has my ears, eye color, and my blonde hair. I don't need no DNA test. And even if she wasn't mine, she my life. I would never leave her. She's the reason I don't divorce and finish off my marriage. One of my brothers at base didn't rub it in my face. I remember they saying, when you go home and find your wife on your bed with someone else, we going to say we told you so. But he didn't say that, he said I'm ruining my life with the right person. He said if I don't divorce, I will be miserable when I could find someone great. Yeah, sure. I just want to go back home. But due to this pandemic, it won't happen. I wish everyone a blessing and stay inside safely. Update: after almost 2 months, I had a huge depression. Going through a tough divorce, but I always had my little star with me. My baby comes and hugs me and tells me she loves me. She heals me. I'm feeling much better after a long painful couple of months, but I'll continue. Shit, the pain I had to endure in boot camp is league from this. So I'm going to continue from this. And I got my little star with me. Who knows, maybe I'll find another woman again, but it won't be anytime soon. I learned two things: I can't trust people, and marriage is such a waste. Wow. I just have to be there for my daughter and myself.
Police, firefighter, and our military have to make so many sacrifices for us, not the least of which is putting their loved ones on the back burner sometimes. When you're away serving, it takes an equally strong woman to stay faithful. Unfortunately, most people are weak. I would have thought a child would help her see the bigger picture, but some people only care about themselves. Try to look at it from the glass half full view. If you never caught her, you never would have known, and your next child may not have even been yours. Time will heal your broken heart, you will see, and I believe good people get good things, most of the time.
Story 3. Hubby slept with every woman except me. My soon-to-be ex-husband was a very attractive man, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive on our first date. When we married, we agreed that I would be making most of the money and doing most of the housework while he cooked me dinner and completed his bachelor's degree. At least that was the plan. He flunked class after class because he refused to do the work and skipped class in favor of playing video games and complaining about how depressed he was. Pre-marriage, he was charming and attentive during our dates. Post-marriage, he was off in his own world, and getting him to agree to date night was like pulling teeth. The sex became infrequent after the honeymoon and stopped altogether after a year and a half. You see, he liked chubby girls, and at 120 pounds I literally wasn't enough for him. My weight or lack thereof hadn't been a problem for the sex we had before marriage, but after marriage suddenly the pressure was on for me to gain weight. For every woman entering a marriage hoping to change her man into something he's not, there is a man doing the same to his new wife. I could not discuss this with my female friends. There are no words in our society to describe a woman trapped in a sexless marriage. I was probably the only late 20-something woman in my entire state who had to beg her husband for sex. So from the beginning my marriage was plagued by a problem that had no name. I had always thought, perhaps naively, that marriage was supposed to resolve sexual tension, not create it. I did not get married to never have sex again. The homemade dinners dropped from every day to once a week because he was depressed. He also stopped accompanying me to family and social events. Again, I did not get married to show up alone to events. But I was patient. I convinced myself that his mental illness was the problem, not our marriage. I hid any pills that might be dangerous when he talked about committing. I came home from work each day praying I would not find my husband dead. When he said he was going to walk out our front door and not stop until he died, I blocked the door with my body and called 911. I ended up canceling the 911 call after I got him to promise me he would not hurt himself while I was at work. My handle on this forum comes from the fact that our life together was like a soap opera, an endless emotional roller coaster. I never knew if he was going to ask me for cuddles or yell at me. I walked on eggshells. One time I was washing dishes, minding my own business, and he burst into the kitchen yelling, "I'm going to become an astronaut, and if you don't support my dream, I'm cutting you out of my life." He was 28 and still didn't have his bachelor's degree, so I was pretty sure being an astronaut was not in his future, but after that outburst I didn't say anything. I finally convinced him to seek professional help. The worst behaviors were no longer present, but we never did regain the connection we had before we were married. At that point I did not feel like a wife, but like a mother to a moody teenager. His mood swings went beyond just normal bipolar disorder. He didn't want a wife, he wanted a mother substitute without the parental authority. The fact that his own mother left him with relatives in a foreign country at the age of 14 might have had something to do with it. The end of my marriage did not come when I discovered the sexually explicit texts to one of his community college students. He had by this point found work as a part-time tutor. It did not come when, a few months later, he announced his intention to leave me for yet another woman who, ironically, turned him down once he was free. No, my marriage ended the moment when I heard him come in the front door and thought, "Oh crap, he's home." That moment came long before I had any inkling of his affairs. In a way, it was a relief to discover the texts because it gave me an excuse for divorce. I had grown up in a traditional household where divorce was very much frowned upon. So much so that I forgave him and resolved to work on our marriage after I confronted him about the texts. Ultimately, he left me for the other woman. So there it is. I supported this man financially and emotionally for years, only to have him turn on me when he thought the grass was greener on the other side. He even asked me to buy him a flat-screen TV as a parting gift before you could say gold digger. I told him my parting gift to him was not emulating Lorena Bobbitt after I found out about the cheating. He also asked me if I would mind vacating the condo whose bills I paid solely out of my own money whenever he wanted romantic evenings with his mistress. I told him to boil his head, take a long walk off a short pier, and then go F himself. Some people's heads are so far up their own asses. Slowly my self-respect was returning. I never realized how much I gave in to him and how much of myself I had lost in the process until I had nothing more to lose. Owing to some unusual legal circumstances he got our home, but it was 100% worth it to be free again. My traditional upbringing failed me utterly. When this COVID-19 business is over, I intend to stick to escorts. At least they will actually do the job they are being paid to do, not expect me to wait on them hand and foot after putting in a full day's work, and be honest about the fact that they are seeing other women. Best of all, they will have no power to strip me of my home and half my assets.
Good on you. He sounds like a piece of shit that will probably do the same thing to the next woman anyway. I would say don't give up on love though. I've had some seriously bad relationships and thought men aren't worth my time anymore, but after a few years of being single, I have met my current partner who is perfect and not like other men at all. Being in a happy relationship can happen for you, and it will be worth it. You just need time to recover from this one. I imagine going to escorts regularly might make you feel a bit empty, because there won't be an emotional attachment. Also, it will be you giving all to the relationship, again, and not getting anything back off the person. But good luck to you with whatever you decide to do, and hope you do find happiness.
Story 4. My BF 22M cheated on me 18F with my best friend 19F while I was laying next to them. Hey everyone, something really upsetting happened to me yesterday, and I'm feeling quite overwhelmed. I had been in a relationship with my boyfriend for almost 3 years, and I also had a friend whom I had known for nearly 2 years. Yesterday, I decided to go out for a drink with my girlfriend to spend a nice evening together. While we were hanging out, my boyfriend texted and asked if he could join us. Both my girlfriend and I agreed, and he came over, and we all had a good time. Later on, we headed back to my friend's studio apartment. Along the way, I opened up about some personal insecurities, like feeling foolish at times because of my hair color and expressing my discomfort with the idea of threesomes, as it made me feel gross and uncomfortable. Once we arrived at the apartment, we watched a series together. I must have fallen asleep at some point, and when I woke up, I noticed my girlfriend was continuously rubbing my boyfriend's belly. I immediately expressed my discomfort to my boyfriend, but I eventually fell back asleep. My girlfriend was also getting ready for bed, and I noticed she had changed into a silk kimono, which was unusual since she had been wearing an oversized t-shirt and pants earlier, a red flag for me. I was quite exhausted, so I drifted off to sleep again. Suddenly, I woke up, sensing movement on the bed and hearing heavy breathing. I was paralyzed, realizing what was happening. I went to the bathroom, trying to gather my thoughts and figure out what to do next. Eventually, I made the decision to pack my things and leave. While I was packing, my boyfriend went to the bathroom and I confronted my friend, calling her a disrespectful person. She responded with a feeble apology, but it didn't mean much to me. My boyfriend entered the room, and I ended our relationship on the spot. I swiftly left, with my belongings in tow. He followed me, pleading to take me home and ensure my safety, but I refused. As I walked home, he continued chasing after me, expressing how stupid he had been and how he never wanted to lose me. It was the first time I saw him cry, but by that point, I couldn't bring myself to care. I'm at a loss for what to do now. I see my friend regularly at school since she's in my class, and I don't know how to handle the situation. I am consumed with anger and confusion.
Don't let them lie to you on face and let his friends and her friends know their character. Or, just don't do anything and be nice to them and live your life to fullest. Show them that you are living better without them. Let regret do the left things. But don't allow them in your life.
Story 5. 19 years gone in one conversation. My 46M wife, 48F, of 19 years told me about her friend setting her up on a blind date. She had a girls' night out with her friend T. T set her up apparently with a guy that she had slept with a few weeks earlier. T was hooking up with someone else and set my wife up with the past hookup. My wife went out at 7 p.m. and came home at 3 a.m. that night. The confession came completely out of the blue, said she was sorry, wants to work on our marriage, waterworks, begging forgiveness. She said that nothing happened between her and the guy because T had slept with him. She knew agreeing to meeting this guy was wrong, and going to meet him was even worse. I don't believe that nothing happened like she is saying. She also said that the guy works at a sawmill and you make more money, that's why I am the better option. Basically, she was confessing to actively trying to replace me. If she could find someone with a better paying job, this post would be much different. Not long after this girl's night out and before the confession, my wife and T had a total meltdown of their friendship. Suddenly they went from best friends to T is a liar and a manipulative, jealous person, according to my wife. I think the confession, or partial confession, was to keep T from telling me about her sleeping with the guy. Gaslighting me on the truth of what really happened by telling me only partially about it. Only enough to look bad, but not the whole ugly truth of what happened. Honesty, I didn't need to be told everything that happened. Her story didn't add up. The holes in the story were too big. Little coincidences that occurred around that time put everything in perfect focus. When she told me about it, I lost all feeling for her. I just went numb, didn't even get angry. I'm done. Just working on my exit strategy at this point. Getting financials in order, place to move into, etc. It really sucks that she would be willing to throw away 19 years of marriage with no regard for anything, including our 2 children. Update. She is in full-blown panic mode. Recently diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder where her white blood cells are attacking her lungs. This causes asthma attacks that normal medication can't correct. The only drug on the market that controls the condition has a copay of $13,000 after her Medicaid. If I didn't have really good health insurance through my employment, there isn't any possibility of her being able to afford it. She is trying everything to reconcile. Even setting up couples counseling. We made it through 2.5 sessions. Explains why she came clean on partial truth and wants to fix things. Counseling went the way I figured it would. Every session was all about everything I had done wrong. Ever. Including my working 50 hours each week to make ends meet because she has partial disability and doesn't work. I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Everything was brought up, including our 2 children. Well, except I was informed that the mention of her date night was off limits. About halfway through the 3rd session, the counselor looked her in the eye and asked, if you have such a high-power radar to detect what everyone else is doing wrong, point that radar at yourself and tell me what you do wrong. The proverbial shit hit the fan. My STBXW started yelling at the counselor and wanted to know why she was attacking her when we are there so she can fix me. After a few minutes of back and forth, my STBXW stormed out crying. The counselor told me that my STBXW has a deep hatred for me and I don't think this marriage can be salvaged. Basically, my response was yup and nope. I informed the counselor that I appreciate her time and we won't be back. She offered me individual counseling. I informed her that I probably would in the future and proceeded to tell her about the taboo topic. Needless to say, it didn't surprise her and confirmed her suspicion. Needless to say, the entire trip back to the house was about what a quack the therapist was. I've basically been on autopilot when I'm at the house. I refer to it as the house because it isn't a home anymore. I've moved into the spare bedroom. As far as I'm concerned, I may be married, but I no longer have a wife. If she didn't need good medical insurance coverage, she would still be on the hunt. I don't need to track down T to get the whole story. I live in a small community of less than 900 people. I commute to work in a bigger city daily. Monday of this week, while at the only grocery store in the community, guess who ran into my STBXW? None other than the blind date guy. Small towns, right? It was bound to happen. I was at the end of the aisle when he walked up to her. He is a small guy. Maybe 5 feet 9 inches and 150 pounds. She had her back to me and didn't realize where I was. He asked her out again, right in front of me. She did decline though. That's when I walked up. I asked him if her was the guy she went out with about 2 months ago. He asked what's it to me. I backed him up against the shelves and told him that I've been her husband for 19 years. I thought he was going to soil himself. I'm 6 feet 2 inches and 250 pounds and muscular. She tried to get me to back off. I growled at her to shut up, she just better listen. Immediately she started crying. He told me that he was told she was single and begged for me to not kill him. I asked if they fucked. He swallowed hard and said yes. She cried harder. I told him to never let me see him again. He apologized for everything and basically ran out of the store. Her AP outed her by being in the wrong place at exactly the perfect time. If it hadn't been him, I would have eventually ran into T to get the story. Needless to say, most of the time I'm on autopilot. It's as if all emotion is gone. I have to fake happiness while I'm with my children. I don't know if it is an emotional self-defense mechanism to keep things from falling further apart. I know I should be in some kind of distress over this. One day it's going to hit hard. I no longer trust the things I know to be true. Do my children really love me? Or do they love the things I give them? Do my parents? Do they only love the fact that I got good grades in school? Never got into trouble? Always had good paying jobs? The only thing I'm certain of is I can't stay in this sham of a marriage. I get up, go to work, barely eat or sleep. The only people I've told about this are strangers on the internet. I have no one to talk to about this. I go from one day to the next pretending I'm normal. Maybe my STBXW was right. The therapist does need to fix me.
Mate, go to the therapist for yourself. The process of divorce is going to get hard, and trust me, it will be helpful, even if asking advice on how to minimize the impact on your children. I couldn't stay in a marriage like you describe either. Seek a lawyer ASAP and get divorce moving. Once you're clear of this entitled, selfish woman, the better. It's clear she cares nothing for you and just wants your financial support. The way she behaved in counseling and the continued trickle truth. Unbelievable.
Story 6. If he accuses you of cheating. Let me paint the picture. My husband and I have been together for 19 years. He was my very first boyfriend at 18 years old, and we lost our virginity to each other. We were inseparable and a model of love and a healthy relationship to our friends. About 5 years ago, I gave birth to our son after years of infertility. It was truly a miracle. This is when things got difficult. My husband was now the breadwinner as I began my new role as a mom. When my son was a year old, I experienced a miscarriage. This was right after I stopped breastfeeding and my hormones were a wreck and depression was really sinking in. My husband felt I was pulling away from him and started investigating. For the next 3 years, he accused me of cheating on him with all our guy friends. Then he thought I had a boyfriend. His thoughts morphed into thinking I was a prostitute, entertaining men during nap time. He set up hidden cameras and recording devices around the house to catch me. I felt so much pity for my husband. I encouraged him to go to therapy because his ability to thinking rationally seemed compromised. We tried couples counseling, but the accusations continued. The emotional abuse continued. Intimacy was strained because he was looking at me like a slut, but felt like I had to please him to help him feel better. Last year I listened to my gut, and I did not sleep with him for about a month. My depression was at its worst, and I was starting Lexapro. At a small get-together with friends, my husband went on a walk with my best friend, the wife of his best friend. They have an open relationship, and it was overheard that she was telling my husband that humans are not meant to be monogamous. I noticed her touching his knee too comfortably, and I felt like vomiting. They planned a game night, and my husband planned to spend the night. Since the game was so long and boring, I wasn't invited. I am not stupid. My husband was too excited about this night and had really been looking forward to it. Right before he left, I asked him not to sleep with her. He seemed shocked and flabbergasted that I would even mention something so wild. I told him if I didn't say it I would regret it later. Even while I was showing apprehension, he still left. He returned the next day, and after being awkward for hours, he finally told me what happened. This almost 40-year-old tells me he hooked up with her. Using such casual language when up to this point we had only ever had sex with each other. I have since moved out, but he is determined to win me back. I am not sure I could endure more of this toxic relationship. The next chapter is very scary. I have never dated another person in my life, but even being alone has to be better than this kind of emotional abuse. My parents want me to work it out with him. My friends are supportive of me and happy I've finally left. Healing can be lonely and scary, but I am hoping for a better future for me and my son.
Block him off. He was accusing you of cheating because he was the one doing it all along. Don't go back to him. He will just keep on accusing you of sleeping around with people. That's not a healthy partner to be with.